Here's something that might surprise you. Most men have been getting intimacy completely wrong for years, and nobody ever told them. You see, many guys assume that passion in the bedroom is all about speed and intensity, going harder, going faster, like they've seen in movies or read about online. But here's the truth. How you connect physically with your partner has everything to do with whether she's genuinely enjoying the experience or just waiting for it to end. Get this wrong, and you risk creating distance or discomfort. Get it right, and you build the kind of connection that keeps her wanting more time together, feeling closer to you emotionally and physically. And that's exactly what I'm here to help you understand today. I'm Dr. Thomas, and I've spent the last 12 years working in men's health, helping thousands of men rebuild confidence, restore intimacy, and create deeper connections with their partners. I've sat across from men who were frustrated, confused, and quietly ashamed, not because they didn't care, but because nobody ever gave them the real information they needed. That changes today. I'm going to walk you through the most misunderstood aspects of physical intimacy, the things nobody teaches you, but that make all the difference. Here's what we're covering. First, why starting slow isn't just polite, it's actually biologically necessary for her body to respond and enjoy what's happening. Then, the specific approach that amplifies pleasure for both of you, including the one element 99% of men completely overlook. And finally, how being present and attentive transforms you from just another guy into someone she genuinely looks forward to being intimate with. Most men spend decades repeating the same patterns because nobody ever explained how female biology actually works during intimacy. As a men's health physician, I've seen this gap cause real damage to relationships, to confidence, to emotional connection. So let's close that gap right now. Before we go any further, if you're finding this valuable, do me a favor. Hit that like button, drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from, and subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this series. What's coming next might completely reshape how you approach intimacy, and I mean that seriously. Mistake number 1, starting too intense too quickly. Let's talk about the single biggest mistake men make when it comes to physical intimacy. Starting too hard and too deep right from the very beginning. If you're like most men, you've probably seen intimate scenes in movies or online where things escalate immediately. Penetration happens, and suddenly it's aggressive, fast, and intense. And you might assume that's what women want because that's what gets portrayed everywhere. But here's what's actually happening in her body. And as a physician, I want you to understand this clearly because it changes everything. Women's bodies take significantly more time to warm up than yours does during arousal. This isn't opinion, it's pure biology. During arousal, the vaginal opening actually expands to accommodate deeper penetration comfortably. But this doesn't happen instantly. It takes time. Blood flow increases, the vaginal canal lengthens, natural lubrication increases, the muscles relax. This is a process, not a switch that flips the second intimacy begins. So when you start with hard, deep intensity immediately, before her body has had the time to fully respond, it's almost guaranteed to be uncomfortable or even painful for her. Now, she might not tell you this. She might not want to hurt your feelings. She might be uncomfortable speaking up. Or she might genuinely think this is how intimacy is supposed to feel because other partners have done the same thing. But regardless of whether she says anything, you need to understand that biologically, her body isn't ready for that intensity yet. Starting slow gives her body the time it needs to relax and fully open up. And when you do eventually build to deeper, more intense connection, it feels incredible for her instead of painful. This isn't about being timid or hesitant. It's about understanding how arousal works in the female body and adjusting your approach accordingly. Slow doesn't mean weak, it means strategic. And in my experience working with men, the ones who master this principle are the ones whose partners actively pursue intimacy with them, not the other way around. Think of it this way. You wouldn't try to sprint a marathon from the starting line. You pace yourself. You build momentum. Intimacy works exactly the same way. The men who understand this don't just have better sex, they have better relationships. Technique number 2. The power of teasing and anticipation. The second technique that changes everything is teasing, and this applies specifically to the rhythm of your physical connection, not just foreplay. Teasing is about strategically varying intensity to amplify her pleasure through anticipation and craving. And here's the psychology behind why this works so powerfully. When she's experiencing intense pleasure during intimacy, her body adapts to that level of stimulation. Those feelings build as she goes deeper into the experience. But when you temporarily pull back on that intensity, when you press pause for just a moment, you're creating a contrast that makes her want it even more. You're activating her desire. You're making her crave what you just took away. And that sense of craving will double or triple the intensity of her pleasure when you finally give her what she wants again. So here's how this works in practice. When you find yourself getting into a harder, faster rhythm that she's clearly enjoying, let her experience that for a bit. Then pull back. Slow everything down dramatically. Enter her slowly and shallowly instead of hard and deep. And watch her reaction. She's going to be squirming, probably trying to pull you deeper, maybe even verbally asking you to give it back to her. And that's when you know you've got her exactly where you want her. Once you build back up to your previous speed and intensity, you'll see what a powerful effect that contrast has on her body. The pleasure hits completely differently after being denied it for a few moments. This is not manipulation. This is understanding desire at a physiological level and using that knowledge to create a genuinely extraordinary experience for both of you. One critical warning though, don't try this teasing technique right when she's approaching climax. If you pull back intensity right before she's about to reach orgasm, she's going to be genuinely frustrated with you. And not in a good way. This technique works best in the earlier and middle stages of intimacy, when you're building arousal, not when she's right on the edge. Read the room. Pay attention. That awareness is everything. Technique number 3. Varying your tempo throughout the third element to master is varying your tempo throughout the entire experience. If you maintain the same rhythm for an extended period, it gets repetitive, and repetitive stimulation actually becomes less pleasurable over time. Our nerve endings adapt to consistent stimulation patterns and become less sensitive to them. That's basic neuroscience, and it's one of the reasons men often don't realize they're losing her engagement even when they think they're performing well. That's why mixing up your tempo is crucial. Your tempo should shift based on several factors: what position you're in, how close either of you is to climax, and how far into the experience you are. If you're early in the experience, facing each other, kissing, connecting, you can go slower and savor that intimacy. If you're further along and she's in a position that allows more intensity, you can go harder and faster. Don't overthink this. The point isn't to follow some rigid formula. It's to create natural variation so that her body stays responsive and engaged rather than adapting to one consistent rhythm. As long as you're varying tempo based on the moment and what feels right, both of you will enjoy the experience significantly more. This is one of those principles that sounds simple, but separates men who are genuinely skilled in intimacy from those who are just going through the motions. Quick pause here before technique number 4. Let me tell you about something that's going to save you from making embarrassing mistakes when it comes to oral intimacy. I've put together a free resource that covers the most common errors men make during oral sex, things that seem minor but completely ruin the experience for her. A lot of men think they know what they're doing, but they're actually doing things that turn her off or make her uncomfortable without realizing it. You'll find the link in the description. It's completely free, and it'll save you from techniques that simply don't work, regardless of what you've read or seen elsewhere. Technique number 4, the power of grinding. The move 99% of men miss now. Let me talk about the technique that 99% of men completely ignore, and it's one of the most powerful tools you have. I'm talking about grinding. Most men focus exclusively on the in and out motion, and yes, that stimulates her nerve endings, but it completely misses the most pleasure-sensitive part of female anatomy, the clitoris. When you grind into her, holding her body against yours, pressing firmly, keeping her close, you have the ability to apply direct pressure to her outer anatomy and clitoris. And this is where understanding female biology becomes critically important from a clinical standpoint. The clitoris isn't just that small external point. It actually has internal structures that extend beneath the surface, and the entire surrounding area responds powerfully to pressure against the vaginal opening and adjacent tissue. In straightforward terms, if you grind against her, instead of just going in and out, you're directly stimulating the clitoris, which is the primary source of sexual pleasure in the female body. For most women, clitoral stimulation is not optional, it's essential for orgasm. Research consistently confirms this. By incorporating grinding, you're dramatically increasing the likelihood that she'll reach climax during penetration. That's not a minor upgrade. That's a fundamental shift in what intimacy looks like for her. How exactly do you grind? It's straightforward. You stay deep inside her and move firmly against her body, making sustained contact with her outer anatomy and clitoris. This isn't aggressive or rough, it's controlled, deliberate pressure. Some positions, like missionary, make grinding much easier to execute. Other positions make it harder, so you'll need to experiment and adjust. But either way, I strongly encourage you to make this a consistent part of your approach. Not only does it massively increase pleasure for her, but it's also a strategic way for you to manage your own arousal. Grinding is very stimulating for her, but significantly less so for you. So if you find yourself approaching climax too early, switching to grinding lets you slow down your own arousal while still keeping her pleasure high. It's a win for both of you, and frankly, it's one of those techniques that men wish someone had told them years ago. Technique number 5, pay attention and stay present. The fifth and final principle is the one that ties everything else together. Paying attention. Whether you're using rhythm, grinding, or anything else during intimacy, you need to be present and aware of how she's responding. Watch how her body reacts. Listen to her breathing. Notice what makes her move toward you versus pull back slightly. Pay attention to vocalizations, muscle tension, the shift in her energy, all of it. This awareness is what allows you to create the best possible experience for both of you, not just once, but consistently over time. Too many men get trapped in their own heads during intimacy. They're worrying about performance, second-guessing themselves, thinking about whether they're doing it right. And because of that internal noise, they completely miss what she's actually showing them. Her body is communicating with you in real time. The question is whether you're listening. Here's something I tell my patients directly. The most confident, capable man in the bedroom isn't the one with the most techniques. He's the one who pays the most attention. Presence is not a soft skill. It's an advanced skill. It's what separates men who are technically performing from men who are genuinely connecting. When you're fully present, you pick up on the subtle cues that tell you exactly what she needs in that moment. You notice when to push the intensity forward and when to pull back. You catch the moment she's about to climax, and you respond accordingly. You feel when something is working and when it isn't, not because she tells you, but because you're paying close enough attention to know. That level of attentiveness communicates something powerful to her. It tells her that you're not just using her body, you're engaged with her. You're invested in her experience. And that emotional signal transforms physical intimacy into something far deeper than mechanics. Over time, a man who is consistently present and attentive builds a kind of trust and comfort that makes her feel genuinely safe and desired. And that safety is what unlocks the kind of intimacy most men only read about. She doesn't just tolerate it, she looks forward to it. She initiates it. She tells her friends she has a partner who actually understands her. That's what's available to you when you combine these 5 principles together. Starting slow, building through teasing and anticipation, varying tempo intelligently, using grinding to maximize her pleasure, and staying fully present and attentive throughout. None of this is complicated. None of it requires special equipment or extraordinary physical gifts. It requires knowledge, intention, and the discipline to stay out of your own head and into the shared experience you're creating together. As a physician who has worked with men across a wide range of ages and relationship situations, I can tell you with confidence, the men who transform their intimate lives are not the ones who try harder, they're the ones who learn smarter. They stop repeating patterns that were never taught to them correctly in the first place. And they replace those patterns with understanding rooted in how the body actually works. That's what I want for you, not just better performance, better connection. Because at the end of the day, physical intimacy isn't just about what happens in the moment. It's about the emotional residue it leaves behind. Does she feel seen? Does she feel valued? Does she feel like you were fully there with her? Those answers determine whether intimacy becomes a source of closeness in your relationship or just another routine. You now have the foundation. Use it. Practice it. Stay curious about her responses and keep refining your approach over time. The men who commit to this kind of intentional growth don't just become better in the bedroom. They become better partners in every sense of the word. If this resonated with you, make sure you've subscribed and share this with a man you think could benefit from hearing it straight. No judgment, no shame, just real information that most of us were never given. I'm Dr. Thomas. I'll see you in the next one.